Welcome to another episode of the show presented by Kala. Kala is a platform for promotion of literature and arts. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our sponsors for today evening are Let's Talk. They are a mental health care company creating safe spaces for shared journeys. Please connect with them. Our moderator this evening is Vardhan for you. Welcome on the show.
Namaste.
Vardhan, namaste and welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Vardhan is a multifaceted personality. He is a science graduate and chartered accountant with over 30 years of experience in leadership roles at various Indian multinational companies. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he decided to leave the corporate world to pursue his passions. Currently, he is learning Sanskrit and studying the Bhagavad Gita, driven by a deep interest in India's spiritual heritage. He has authored blogs on various Indian festivals, highlighting their relevance in modern times. Some of his blogs, I am honored to say, are also available on my website, www.authorsanjaychandra.com. Vardhan is also an avid photographer and enjoys cooking. His is an inspiring life. Welcome once again, Vardhan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now about the guest of the evening. That's Professor Seema Jain. She is a bilingual poet, short story writer, translator, editor, critic, and reviewer. Seema has been the Vice Principal, Dean Academics, Associate Professor, and Head PG Department of English at KMV Jalandhar. Seema Jain has to her credit 14 published books that include 5 poetry collections in English and Hindi, 2 edited poetry anthologies, Vibrant Voices, an anthology of 21st century Indian women poets in English, which is a Sahitya Akademi publication, and Mosaic of Poetic Musings, contemporary women poets from India. She also has 3 translated books of poems, 2 translated novels, one of which is for Sahitya Akademi, and 2 edited books of research articles. Her interviews and reviews are published in many edited papers and journals like the Daily Guardian, the Statesman, Setu, and Indian Journal. Seema has been a speaker for Jaipur Literature Festival and has recited her poems for Sahitya Akademi's Sahityotsav, SAARC Countries Literature Festival, Foswal. Seema is the recipient of Purvottar Hindi Sahitya Akademi Award, Master of Creative Impulse Award, and Punjab Kala Sahitya Akademi Award. She is the founder-president of Lit Spark, a literary forum. Associate Director IAAE, that is International Academy of Ethics, and President of Punjab State for the International Poetry Forum, Mahila Kavya Manch. Let me tell you that the episode is also recorded and will be shared on my YouTube channel, Sanjay Chandra 5376, for the benefit of those who could not join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I now hand you over to Vardhan and Seema. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show presented by Kala and sponsored by Let's Talk. Let me move out of the frame now. Over to you, Vardhan and Seema Jain.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for your
Thank you, Mr. Chandra.
introduction. And namaste to all our viewers in Bharat and outside of Bharat. Welcome to the show. And welcome to Seema Jain ji.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vardhan and Mr. Chandra.
It's such a privilege to have you on the show. And I am very sure that we will have a very interesting conversation today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure too. And I'm also looking forward to this interesting conversation. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's begin our conversation. As Sanjay said that you are a poet, you are a translator, you are an editor, you are a critic. All these hats you are wearing so effortlessly, while many people struggle to wear even a single hat. How do you manage to do that?
In fact, Vardhan, I would say that I don't wear these hats. These hats automatically come to me because of my passion for literature and the different genres and domains of literature. So I have been a professor of English, and after my retirement, I have been more actively pursuing my passion for literature. So I used to write earlier also, but post-retirement, I have plenty of time at my disposal to do a lot of translation and editing work, reviewing books, and writing critical articles, etc. So that gives me a lot of satisfaction. So that's how it is.
Oh, that's really inspiring. Is that many people post retirement
Mhm.
tend to take it really easy, while you have actually done the other way around and you have made yourself that much more busy. Very impressive.
Yes, my friends and colleagues, former colleagues, they often tell me that you are, more active now than you were when you were in job. So I believe partly it is true, and I think that I had been always looking forward to my own time when I could wholeheartedly pursue my passions, and this is the time that I have now.
So, of all these hats that you wear, which is the one hat that you really enjoy and cherish, which gives you the most satisfaction?
Well, it's difficult to say, but primarily I would say that it is the writing part, writing poetry, and I also write short stories. So basically, writing is a kind of catharsis for me. It's a kind of meditation for me. I would say that
Mhm.
when I'm writing something, my concentration and the dive deep into my innermost recesses of the mind, that is like a process of meditation for me. So that is the most satisfying part. But yes, apart from that, I have enjoyed editing the poetry anthologies, especially for Sahitya Akademi, in which I have included 102 poets from India and overseas, Indian women poets, and that has been a very satisfying experience. And at the same time, a lot of translation work I'm doing, and that also in a way satisfies me and makes me feel contented because I'm a bilingual poet. I write in Hindi as well as English, and though my primary subject has been English, and I have been teaching English language and literature throughout my life, but I have a good command, I believe, over Hindi as well. Till my graduation I studied Hindi also and Sanskrit also a bit. So because of that, perhaps I Hindi comes naturally to me. Moreover, it is our own language, and many things, we think and we feel in our own language. So that way, translation from Hindi to English and from English to Hindi, I'm able to do effortlessly. And people tell me that, they like my translations. So that gives me a lot of contentment and satisfaction. Thank you.
Okay. The way you explained writing is like a meditation was a beautiful analogy. I really liked it. Is
Thank you. No, I really mean
something.
it because I absolutely I feel like that. Because when I'm writing something, I'm so deeply into it that I forget about everything else, about my surroundings and every other thing. And that's the reason I sometimes prefer to write at night when
Mhm.
I have absolutely, no chance of any disturbance, because I don't want to be disturbed in that process of diving deep into my conscious and subconscious mind.
Coming to your role as an editor, I wanted to ask you a question. Is the role of an editor very difficult, and in the sense that you have to balance between making sure that the original essence and ethos of what author has written and wants to convey is maintained, at the same time you have to do the editing so as to make sure that it becomes that much more better product.
Yes, I think to an extent it is a challenging job, and to some extent it is also a thankless job because people don't realize how much of effort goes into it and how much dedication it demands. But having said that, I would like to say that yes, it's difficult to balance the including poems and then choosing the poem, selection of poems, and then chiseling them a bit wherever it is required, editing them at places. But at the same time, you have to be very careful because there are certain, do's and don'ts about it, and you have to be very careful not to tamper with the original spirit and the content of what the poet is trying to say. So you have to be very, very cautious and careful in this regard. And sometimes I read poems about which there were certain aspects where I felt it was very vague what the poet wanted to convey, and sometimes some particular word did not seem to fit in. And at times, I have also done this kind of thing that I would take a screenshot and send it to the original poet, highlighting that particular aspect and asking for a clarification. So that has really worked wonders. And some people, the people were very appreciative of this kind of meticulousness that with which I did editing. But apart from that, I think I have been very careful not to tamper with the original spirit and the essence of the poem, which every editor, I believe, should be careful about, should be particular about. And then, apart from that, yes, it's another aspect of editing which I find very challenging is the bios of the poets, the bios of the poets and the writers who contribute. Because sometimes, people are very touchy about their bios, and if it is lengthier or if it is not in the proper format, and you have to edit it and you have to kind of chisel it, then you cannot do it without the original poet's permission. So all those aspects are challenging, but at the same time, the rewarding part is that you get to read so many different poems from very good poets, and it is an enriching experience in itself. So I think that is the most rewarding part of being an editor.
I think you have said it well, and it really puts in perspective the balancing act that you as an editor do to make sure that
Thank you.
both the sides get full justice.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, since you talked about translating a poem, I wanted to ask you a question. Is
Yes.
that translating a poem from one language to another language, how easy or how difficult it is? In the sense that the poem that was written in original language, it has its own culture, own ethos, and translating that in another language, the words may convey the meaning, but it may not convey the rhyme and rhythm. How do you do that?
Uh, Coming to the first part of your question, whether how easy it is or how difficult it is, I would say it is both. If you have good proficiency in the target language and the original language, I think translation is not difficult. It's easy if you have good command over both the languages. But at the same time, yes, translating the cultural part, the cultural nuances is the most challenging aspect of translation. Sometimes there are words to which you cannot find equivalents in the target language. There are no equivalents to them in the target language. And at the same time, there are issues about especially in poetry. When you are translating poetry, there are problems with the maintaining or keeping the rhythm, the rhyme, etc. And I think successful translation of poetry would be that you should be able to retain the rhyme and rhythm as much as possible, as much as possible. And I have done that in many poems, where sometimes people have told me, looking at the translation, that it reads better than the original. So many of the poets themselves have given this compliment to me, and they have told me that it reads better than the original. I don't know how far it holds good, because it is their perspective, and I honor that. But yes, my effort is to try to maintain rhythm and rhyme of poetry, and uh, as far as cultural nuances are concerned, these might be about the idiom, the idiom, the proverbs in a language, and even otherwise, apart from idioms and proverbs, the names of some characters, they might have mythological references, they might have historical references in a particular culture. So, in order to address such issues, what I do is generally I give a glossary, because especially when you are translating from Hindi or Punjabi to English, so English being a global language, I think the range of readership and the audience that enhances uh, to a great extent. You are targeting, or you're looking at a larger audience, even a global audience. So keeping that in mind, I always prefer to add a glossary at the end, because I prefer to retain some of the typical cultural words with cultural collocations. I try to retain them, because if you don't use them, there is no equivalent in the target language which is close to them. So they will lose their flavor, the original and cultural flavor. The regional flavor would be lost. So in order to keep that, I prefer to retain those words and explain them in footnotes or in glossary at the end of the book. So that device, that the strategy works very well, and it has been appreciated. Thank you.
I think the way you have explained it is really beautiful. And putting the glossary at the end of the poem makes immense sense, because then the people who have not been part of that culture will really understand what the poet is trying to convey. Fantastic.
Yes, for
That's really great.
example, I would like to say that I recently translated a Hindi poem, a long poem. It was called Suno Radhika. The original author is Dr. Madhav Kaushik, who is also the president of Sahitya Akademi in New Delhi. So I translated that poem into English as Listen Radhika. And in that poem, there are so many references to Krishna and Radha and Mahabharat, Vrindavan, Gokul, and Gopis, and all that context is there. That cultural
Hmm.
context is very deep there. So, if you are looking at a global audience, and if you expect that in the English translation it would be read by people from outside India, then probably they would not be so much familiar with all those cultural references. So, in such a situation, I think glossary is a great help. It is very helpful. Likewise, I have also translated a novel which is about Kekai. It is the
Okay.
story of Kekai, the diary of Kekai. It is called the Vanquished Queen, the Diary of Kekai. So even there, references from Ramayana, and so many references, cultural points are there, which needed a glossary. So I think that is a very good solution to this problem.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Now, coming to your role as a critic, I just wanted to ask you, is that being a poet, does it help you in the role of being a critic? Because you understand what poet writing a poem is all about and what maybe poet wants to convey. So does that help you?
I think it's a very good question. Yes, absolutely. It does help you. Because when you read a work of poetry or fiction, and if you are yourself a writer, you can better understand what the poet is trying to convey, and what are the challenges that the poet must have struggled with, grappled with in writing that. And the whole poetic process and the creative process, you have a better understanding of it, and you can, that work resonates with you better, I would say, and you are able to closely connect with it at times if you are a
Hmm.
writer. But I would not say, that would be presumptuous to say that being a non-writer, you cannot be a good critic. Maybe sometimes you can be more dispassionate, you can be more objective. So it varies. But yes, I feel that being a writer is helpful to me in critically reviewing a work.
Now, what you said is absolutely correct. Is that not being a writer does not disqualify you. If I have to give
Yeah.
you analogy, I will give you analogy from cricket. Is that Harsh
Yeah.
Bhogle has never played
Yes.
cricket, but he is
Yes.
one of the most successful
Very, very well
commentators.
said. Very well said. Your analogy is absolutely beautiful. Yes.
So Before we come to your journey as a poet, I wanted to ask you a question which is more general and global. Is that do you think that poets get less recognition than the authors?
Mm. Poets get less recognition than the authors. Yes. Uh, I think I would like to add something here. Recently, last year, there was in the Sahitya Akademi's Festival of Letters, annual Festival of Letters, there was a panel discussion in which I participated. And the panel discussion, the topic was, is poetry a profession or passion? Poetry is profession or passion?
Interesting.
And one of the leading Indian poets, Jeet Thail, was the chairperson. And most of the people on the panel, they agreed that poetry is passion. Poetry is passion rather than a profession. Yes, some people do make poetry a profession and they have very successfully done that. You could quote the examples of Javed Akhtar and the likes of Gulzar and Sahir Ludhianvi. They have been very professionally successful through their poetry. But everybody is not Javed Akhtar or Gulzar or Sahir Ludhianvi. And people appreciate poetry, but at the same time, the publishers are very reluctant to publish poetry because their constant complaint is, grouse is that poetry doesn't sell. Poetry doesn't sell. So I would say that yes, uh, poetry perhaps gets less recognition, though I think it should be given greater importance because what poetry can say, no other form of creative writing can do that. No? Poetry can say in the minimum of words, it can say the maximum. So poetry should get more recognition, and it makes life more beautiful. It addresses certain deeper issues of life in a very cohesive manner. So poetry should get more recognition. That is my personal belief. And yes, you have recently seen the example of Banu Mushtaq, who has got the Booker Prize, International Booker Prize, for her collection of stories. Other forms of literature, they get more recognition, but at the same time, poetry has had its share of glory. We have writers like Louis Gluck, who got the 2020 Nobel Prize for her poetry. So there have been people at the international arena who have gained recognition by virtue of their poetry. But if you compare, to some extent, yes, ordinary people, they like to read more of fiction than poetry. So it's very difficult to say. Actually, there cannot be any conclusive answer to this.
I think you said it well, and I hope that in future poets and poetry will get more recognition than what it gets
Hope
today.
so.
Let's
Yeah.
let's put it that way. Now, coming to your journey as a poet, we would like to know, our viewers definitely would like to know what motivates you, what inspires you, and what is it that subjects that you want to write about. In short, everything about your journey as a poet.
Okay. Uh, if I talk about my journey as a poet, I think I started writing very early at school time, and no, I used to write in college and school, but as it happens that after getting into a career and after getting into a family, there are some other commitments that take precedence. So sometimes, there is a bottleneck. You hit a bottleneck sometimes, and the same thing happened with me. I stopped writing for some time. In between, I would write, but then it would get lost on some slip of paper or at the back of some notebook or diary, and I did not keep track of it. But after some time, I realized that, I should resume my writing of poetry. And after some time, when I started and resumed doing that, then there was no looking back. Then there was no looking back. Probably that happened, say 20 years ago. And since then, I have been consistently writing and getting my books published. I have contributed to lots of anthologies, which are national and international journals, anthologies. So much so that now I have lost count actually. And it's difficult to keep track, wherever I feel, I can contribute and I should contribute. I send some poems and they are recognized. Recently, a book, an anthology of poetry by contemporary senior women poets. It has been published by Sahitya Akademi, to which I contributed some of the poems. And I will share a very interesting thing with you. One of the very senior and celebrated poets, she read some of my poems, one of my poems, and she sent a message to me on WhatsApp that
Mhm.
Seema, in the entire book, there is no poem that matches this poem. You know, so that's such a great satisfaction. Coming back to my journey as a poet, I have been writing, and the subjects that often interest me. They are subjects from real life. Sometimes, it is relationships, human relationships, and the conflicts in human relationships, the ups and downs of life. Then, some socio-political issues also stir my psyche, especially issues related to women, their exploitation and their oppression, and the need for their equality and empowerment. So such issues, they dominate some of my poems. And apart from that, nature, environment, and any other subject, that motivates me and inspires me. So there is nothing fixed about it. Sometimes at one time I wrote a poem about this subject, that when you want to write something, you are busy and you don't get time, and then the thought slips away, and when you sit down to write, you're blank. So this dilemma of creativity, that also can become a subject of poetry sometimes.
Okay. Ve- Very interesting. Very interesting. One of the books of poems that you have written, An Apology to My Father. I wanted to know why an apology to my father. What is it all about? And
Well,
what are the
yeah,
poems in that book?
okay. The title poem in this anthology is An Apology to My Father. In fact, it is a very interesting and very, I would say, disturbing poem for me,
Mhm.
because this poem, An Apology to My Father, is about generation gap. The generation gap, I think it has always existed and it's common everywhere. And it was based on a personal experience, that my father and I used to have lots of arguments with my father, though we were very close to each other, but at the same time, our perspective on things at times differed. And today I realize that when I am myself a parent, I realize that it was perhaps a tussle between um youth and experience, wisdom. That is how I would define it. Because I used to be more idealistic, his perspective was more realistic. So he would try to guide me, and I would not listen to his advice, because I would think that this is not how things should be. So I would look at how things ought to be, and he would talk about how things are. So that was the kind of argument and dissent that I used to have with him. But I lost him quite early, immediately after my marriage. And by the time I became a parent and I could better understand his perspective, he wasn't there so that I could tell him this. And that is when one day I wrote this poem, An Apology to My Father. So it's about generation gap and so on. Okay.
Very sensitive, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Maybe if you can read one poem from any one of your books, that will our viewers definitely would love to get hear it from you.
Sure, it would be my pleasure. I will just take out some more. Just give me a second. Well, Because I write in both languages. So
Yeah.
would you like me to read a poem in Hindi or in English?
Your choice, man. Your choice.
Okay, 1 minute. Actually, I should have foreseen this and I should have kept some poem ready. But because I did not do that, so it will take me just some time. Um, well, 1 minute. There is one poem which I'm very fond of, and that is Icebergs. It's about women. Yes, I have found it. Yeah. The title of the poem is Icebergs. It takes them thousands of years to be formed. Some icebergs are artifacts, cleverly crafted. Centuries of accumulation made them solid and invincible. It takes another century to nudge the icebergs a little, to shift and melt them gradually, bit by bit. Here I'm talking about the icebergs of patriarchal beliefs and value systems. But as thousands of sparrows can cover the sky with their wings and alter the direction of the winds, mountains can be moved, the sky can be conquered if there is fire in the heart and iron in the soul. Centuries of icebergs of customs and rituals enslave half the world's populace. Single protest isn't enough, but each moment's mutiny, day in and day out, from womb to birth, from home to school, from the food she eats to the clothes she wears, to the thoughts she holds, to the jobs she seeks. Each moment she lives to melt the icebergs a little. That was the poem Icebergs. Thank you so
Beautiful,
much.
highly sensitive, and the analogy of iceberg that you have used is really apt. And I think it really describes what it takes to make a change in the society. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
thank you. Thank you, Vardhanji. Yes,
thank you for reading that poem for our viewers. Uh,
my pleasure.
Sometime back you mentioned about Gulzar and Sahir Ludhianvi. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, is that you have any plans of writing for movies?
Well, I don't think so because I write in a very different style. I think in order to write for movies, you need to write, song like, lyrics, which can be sung. Most of my poetry is not like that, but
Hmm.
sometimes I do write in rhyme and rhythm also. I write shairi also. For example, I would like to share a couple of my shares with you. Like once I wrote, अ, नफरतों में घिर गए हैं आज हम नफरतों में घिर गए हैं आज हम क्यों प्यार की बोली से अब नाता नहीं है क्यों प्यार की बोली से अब नाता नहीं है uh, I'm forgetting the next lines,
Okay.
but I think this is how I sometimes write.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that is less of my style, and
Hmm.
mostly I write deeper, reflective kind of poems. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I think very interesting and very sensitive. My last
thank
question to you is that what are your plans next 12 months or next 24 months? What is it that our viewers should expect from you?
Actually, a lot of work is in the pipeline. It is going on. At present, I'm working on three translation projects, rather four translation projects. One is Midway. The other one is a project from Sahitya Akademi, which I have to complete in a couple of months. So I'll be soon moving on to that. And apart from that, in the pipeline are my own collections of poetry because many of my English poems, they are ready for publication in a volume, and so are many of the Hindi poems. But because of being engaged with some other publication works, like translation projects, etc., I'm not getting time to go to them and attend to them. So I plan to do that in the coming times whenever I am able to do that. And apart from that, I plan to write a collection of short stories or probably a novel, a larger work of fiction, which is based on a very broader theme, which will include many aspects of our life. That is my dream project. So let's see when I'm able to execute it. Yeah.
Okay. So your plate is full.
Yes,
So
my plate is more than full, and
perfect.
I really am, struggling to cope with the things on my platter.
That is how it should be. So
Yeah,
let me
and I'm
be
happy. I'm happy about it. It
yes.
doesn't give me time to relax and to sit back and relax. Yeah.
So let me wish you a really a great future and wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. Let me now hand over to Sanjay.
Thank you so much, Mr.
And
Vardhan, and I'm thankful to Mr. Chandra and to you for having me on this show and being a part of this nice and interesting conversation with you. Thank you.
So
thank
thank you, Vardhan, and thank you, Seema, for being there with us today evening. It was a wonderful episode. We enjoyed it thoroughly. And that
Thank
brings
you.
us to the end of the episode of the show, presented by Kala, sponsored by Let's Talk. Let me remind that the episode was also recorded and will be shared on my YouTube channel, Sanjay Chandra 5376. Please connect with me on my email, sanjaychandra59@gmail.com to feature on the show. We'll be back with the next episode of the show next month. Watch out for the notification about the next guest on our this show. Goodbye and have a safe Sunday.